Hey guys, Veebat here with another V-Plays, taking out the F2G Super Corsair at Tier 8. I really enjoyed this aircraft, not just because I really enjoyed flying the Corsair aircraft, but also because this is one of the only Corsairs that gets the rockets and the bombs equipped at the same time. In fact, at one point, the 1,600-pound bomb that you see mounted underneath the fuselage was the biggest bomb in the game. It wasn't until recently when they introduced the German Tier 10 bomber that you saw 2,200-pound bombs, 1,000 kilograms if you would, rough conversion math. And this thing is monstrous. It has like a 360 plus foot blast radius, 9,000 damage, and then you still get the 8 5-inch rockets, and all of these reload in 120 seconds. A very respectable reload time. The cannons are identical to that of the F4U4 at Tier 7, and with a similar maneuverability of around 11.3, I believe, stock, we're sporting about 11.1 with the lightweight wing frame. So first thing we did here is we went for the garrison on this setup where you've got the two garrisons in the airfield, and then you have a mining plant kind of set behind these mountains. What I like to do is I like to do my best to get that garrison flipped as soon as possible and get everybody going towards this mining facility. This is the most important zone on the map. Some people might think the airfield is, but I'm going to have to disagree. We do use our guns against air-to-ground targets, and usually I don't advocate this, but you're going to see that there's a few instances here where it's actually going to play out fairly well, and I'm going to unload everything into this last section right here because I want to get this zone flipped. So we dropped everything, rockets and bombs, and that was enough to be able to get us the zone, and we were able to take out two of the smaller sites as well. I believe those are classed as medium sites. Now, we do have two IL-20s here, and we got some decent firepower. Multi-rolls are great for flipping zones, and they're also really good at defending zones, because typically they have some pretty decent firepower. So we're going to use our 420s to try and chip away at these two aircraft to the best of our ability and attempt not to run into the ground. So now we're coming directly in on the tail of this IL-20, and the other IL-20's tail gunner was aimed at us, but we get a little bit too close here and we end up rubbing bellies, and I put myself in a bad spot because now I'm very susceptible to getting taken out by splash damage from a bomb or from the tail gunner fire. So I'm going to get low and try to get underneath the tail gunner of this IL-20. And we've lit him on fire, and I'm going to go ahead and roll out of the way, and we got him. So there's one down, and the other IL-20, low health, we're going to finish him off. Sure, we let the enemy team get the airfield, and they're going to have a nice respawn location for all the ground attackers and bombers. But if they keep coming in piecemeal like this, we can undo any capture that they get one at a time by killing the aircraft in the zone. And eventually they'll just start running out of things to be able to blow up. And since it's all bot-controlled ground attack aircraft for the bombers and actual ground attacker airplanes, we don't really need to worry about them being smart and focusing down sights. Only a little bit of RNG will get us into trouble, or if the enemy decides to bring in some aircraft to try and shoot me down. RB-17s have a very potent 23mm tail gunner in the tail, and we would have a lot of trouble if we were to just try and stick behind them, especially at the altitudes they're operating at. The F2G does have some pretty good engine power available, and at this point I decide that it's going to be worth it to try and put the effort into killing that aircraft, because if I tried to deviate away from it at that point, he still would have been able to shoot at me, so might as well go in for the kill on that one. We're going to go ahead and dip the nose, build up some airspeed because our engine's out, and that should come back momentarily. We are going to attempt to take on... Oh, looks like there's a 262. We were going to go after the ground attacker, but the 262 is in the area, and I have reason to believe that he is not looking at me, he's looking at the heavy. I am going to make a diving attack on this IL-20, but now I see that the 262 is flying over my head. He just took out one of our heavies, so they actually are getting a little bit ahead of us on the capture, and they managed to flip the zone. Good news for us, though, is that there are aircraft here. Okay, we've got a ground attacker, there's a heavy here, and we also have our air-to-ground ordnance. We are in a bit of trouble with tail gunner fire, something to bear in mind. There's that 262 in a turn and fight with us. Get those guns on target. There's a couple of hits. Our tail is knocked out, and luckily for us, we do have an ally in a 252 bot control that was able to get that portion of that site, or the portion of that aircraft, which gave us some capture on the site. We're dropping the big bomb on the biggest cluster of heavy targets. Those are the ones represented by a square instead of a circle. And we're also going to try and help our bombers out by taking out some of the AA defenses. We did quite a bit of damage here, so the gun should be able to finish off what's left of that center site, and we've already done nearly half the capture. Again, we want to try and aid our ground attackers from getting shot up by this AA, giving us a little bit more opportunity here. It wasn't until now that I actually realized that my RB-17 was already dead, but we are causing a little bit of damage here and there, which is aiding our ally ground attacker for being able to take out some of these AA sites. Now I'm going to see what type of piecemeal opportunities I have here to be able to take out some ground targets. Very low health on this particular site. It is a hardened structure, so we're going to let a rocket in there. That gave us a decent amount of capture. And there are just a few opportunities around here to be able to go after some sites. So we're going to put a little bit of damage onto that site. There is a heavy fighter inbound. We're going to see what we can do to be able to get guns on target. He is trying to whip past me, but these do have some pretty decent range. And got him. That allowed us to be able to get the zone. There are a bunch of aircraft inbound on my position, but it's okay that they took me out because the zone is going to be locked for another 10 seconds. I'd rather die now than die later and give them some of the zone. You can see that we just picked up grade 2 in our multi-role, and we also picked up the Lambert medal. So we're doing pretty good at this point. You can see while the score is relatively close, we are in a bit of an advantage since we do already have the mining plan in our control. So we've aided in capturing 3 sites already in this game. We've got a total of 300 capture points. So I decide I'm going to try to stay away from the mining plan for the time being because we do have some decent progress on capturing the airfield. And I would like to take out that enemy player in the heavy fighter. But don't ever let one of these bot defense aircraft get on your tail, especially the heavies. They can do quite a bit of damage on you. And don't get target fixated either, because there's opportune targets that can help you get some of that capture. We do see the player down here. I'm going to go ahead and prioritize him. He is putting some good effort into our allies, and he's turning too much, to be honest. He's putting a lot of maneuvers in trying to go after a single aircraft, so we're able to knock him out, but unfortunately we lost some of their allies, so it's a little bit harder to be able to try and capture the zone. I'm going to let loose my munition in the center structure, but it was unnecessary. It turns out that we already had this place captured, and that was the end of the game. So pretty decent performance. It really showcases how a multi-role is good at being able to flip zones, hold those zones, and in a pinch be able to recapture an area that requires destroying ground targets. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at the endgame results screen and break it down just a little bit more about this airframe. Alright, so here we are at the end results screen with nearly 13,000 personal points. We were able to get a grade 2 on this airframe as well as Conqueror, and we're able to get the Lambert medal. Most of our effort was spent over the mining facility, but we were able to help flip it not once but twice using our air-to-ground ordnance, and using Demolition Expert allowed us to be able to get a little bit more out of it. Like we said earlier, this is actually going to be the first Corsair that sports the ability to carry a bomb and rockets, which means it's just going to be a little bit more devastating than your standard F4U4. It does carry the same guns as the F4U4 as well as the F7F, a pretty decent damage rate, good range, and decent rate of fire. You do get to carry the big boy, this 1,600 pound bomb, and before the EF-131 was brought online, this was actually the largest bomb in the game, which means it has an absolutely immense blast radius, as you can see here, 361 feet with 9,000 damage, which allows it to really be able to get the damage out on the enemy. Since we are rocking Demo Expert though, we are able to pump this up to 9,900. In addition to that, we get to carry 8 5-inch rockets, and all of these are reloading in 120 seconds, which is a very good reload time. That is considered right on par. You start to get into the upper echelons at around 180, which is considered kind of a slow reload. 120 is average, and that seemed to do just fine for gaining, maintaining, and flipping the next zone when needed. It is set up currently as kind of a dual role. It's a little bit of maneuverability, a little bit of airspeed, but we did go with the consumable setup Postal and I both favor at this point. And the pilot is a very balanced pilot as well, going for Aerodynamic Expert, Engine Guru 1, and Marksman 1, and then the extra 2 points went towards the air-to-ground ordnance. If we are able to specialize this platform, we'll actually be able to get even more out of the outboard weapons. Probably going to end up going for the decreased reload time because it's going to benefit all ordnance. And then for the airframe upgrade, I'm still debating what I want to do here. Most likely I'm just going to go straight for the reinforced airframe, as it doesn't actually affect the turn maneuverability, just the roll maneuverability, which is important, but not nearly as important as your straight turn time. So it ends up working out all right for us, and it'll give us just a little bit more HP to play with, which is something we know is a strength for multi-rolls, having just a little bit more survivability than your typical airframe. I do like this airframe, and as you can tell, I do have 5 marks for the pilot, or for the airplane itself, but we just didn't fly this plane after specialization came out. This was all prior to, and I had a lot of other aircraft to grind, but here it is, the Super Corsair. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and you enjoyed the battle, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one. I'm marching till it's over. I'm just like a soldier.